Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there as we're talking on our Berries for Breakfast podcast with Sarabeth Berk around being more than your title, having creative disruption from a lens of Sarabeth's hybridity, but not necessarily everybody's, and how we begin to sort of map talent to task, right? So
Yes.
what I take away from your conversation is I think I started Setzer Group not necessarily thinking that I wanted a lot of like-minded people. It was more about, could I get a lot of flexible, versatile people that could be comfortable with ambiguity, that could, flex into areas where if they didn't have that speciality, they knew how to collect it or curate it. And
Yes.
what I always tell people is, my greatest hybrid strength is curiosity. I mean, I just always enter situations with, there has to be a different way, a better way, ways that we can hack. How can we think about the restraints or the constraints we have and kind of innovate through them and around them? And I can get really trapped with, well, doesn't everybody think that way? And surely everybody thinks that way. And what I often experience from my team, from client teams is, do you understand that we need another 2 hours to unpack what you said or what you're thinking? And I don't say that from a narcissistic point of view. I still haven't learned it. Like at 50 years old, I kind of, yeah, they're operating from a different lens, or they're not quite in that space, or they're very tactical or very technical. So I love this point about assembling all of those identities on a team and thinking about how to move them around so that the overall is more effective. If you're a middle manager, if you're a school superintendent, if you're a university president, I was really compelled by this notion that we're all doing individual assessments, we're all doing team assessments and organizational assessments. But it's the identity that really allows you to connect to this person's purpose, their passion, and how do we activate them, right? So if I'm going through this process as an organization and I've got a small team that's working with you, in cases where you've been helping people, what are some things that emerge right away as challenges? And what are some things where you're like, boy, when teams get this, you can really see progress?
Oh my gosh. Bryan, can we go back just a little bit? Because you made a point a moment ago that I wanted to hold on to. And then can I come to this question? Because it's a great
Absolutely.
one. So first, just share with me, what is the title you use in Setzer Group?
For myself,
For yourself, sorry.
CEO and founder.
Okay, perfect. So that's a pretty blanket general title. We know a lot of CEO founders. But as you were just describing what you do and this curiosity that you express, the word wayfinder was really coming up for me in terms of maybe that's more of who you really are, or maybe you're the curiosity wayfinder or the detector of curiosity. There's new ways of reshaping and reframing who is Bryan really in terms of your role on the team. And that gives us a different lens to understand your role, your strength, and the way you're showing up in your work. One other example, because I just want to make this concrete, I think it helps to have examples. One other example of a gentleman I worked with was a project manager. Again, very simple, generic title. We all know project managers. When we unpacked his hybridity, he had a researcher methodology background, had some writing in there, and was working with this engineering team. And he was managing across the different talent and work streams. And the hybrid title that came up for him was tension methodologist. He was really helping balance and redirect people and time and resources. Well, that is a very different way to call him than the project manager. So the power in unpacking and revealing these hybrid titles is about really acknowledging who people are, and it changes how we effectively put them into the work they're doing, or even hiring them for that matter. So I just wanted to use that because I think that's where I'm going with this work.
Before we go to challenges and progress, you know, The crystallization of Wayfinder would be Sherpa. There's been this feeling throughout my career that people seek me out and I seek them out because they want to better understand or they want to find a way through. And I'm compelled by that as a value prop to say, the most often description I get from peers or clients or other things is like, he will help you find a way, or he will help you figure this out, right? And that's from a multitude of influences that I've curated together to say, yep, this is scary, this is thorny, but I know how you should take that on, and I know ways and people and networks that we can bring to bear to get through this, right? So I really love that notion. And also telling my team that from an internal standpoint, that like, look, I'm not a micromanager, I'm not a hard guy to get along with, but I do often see the path faster than most.
Yes.
And that's been a burden since childhood, right? Where I just see it, and then getting people to bring that along, or getting their capacity up or their courage up to then go on that path with me. That's always my Damocles sword of both challenge and opportunity, and the way that I would go through it. So really love that. And I suspect, go ahead.
I love that you shared that. It is those little phrases that people use about you or you use about yourself that sharpen in who you really are. And so if you're the Sherpa, I mean, that's a really powerful tool of your identity. The other idea, because I've known you for years, I was getting the key word of a crystallizer. You are so good at bringing things into sharp focus of clarity. Maybe you're the crystallizing Sherpa, right? Like, this is helping us actually really see more of you. I love this right now.
No, I value the feedback because I think, and audience, there's something when we transition to challenge, like some people will only see you as the CEO or the project manager until they can see you as the Sherpa or the crystallizing Sherpa, or other people are used to their own stories too, around what you bring to an image or a response, et cetera. And I think, 50 is such a milestone for me. But what I was telling somebody the other day is I'm definitely more, back to your self-awareness point, of how I'm perceived and how I read the room and how I can create relief or excitement or a sense of calm. And all of those things can be a part of that Sherpa hybridity, because if you're going up Everest, you want a sense of safety, you want a sense of excellence, because we could die. But if you're going through a new project that has some risk, or maybe visible to a university president or to a superintendent, you want some assurances that there's some evidence, but you also may have been given permission to take 3 different trails. Mm-hmm. And so, to play the metaphor of the Sherpa out even further, some of it depends on your audience or your charge, right? And how you're leading that. And I think historically, relationships like mine and yours, because we've experienced each other for multiple years, there's also, you don't have to reclaim that to an extent, meaning that there's a foundation of the relationship. So as you're working with teams, it's a good segue, because we both work with them. We both walk into organizations where this is tough, and kind of bringing people along or playing that role of creative disruptor, Sherpa, and even playing it together, right? Because we've done that, and we've had to figure out, okay, how are we going to mix and match and make this work?